He actually, according to the sheriff, called his office, specifically the homicide unit, and confessed to detectives there that he was responsible for killing his girlfriend in her mother's spring home.
A 16-year-old girl named Julia Egler called 911, reporting that her mother and her mother's boyfriend had been brutally killed in what appeared to be a robbery gone wrong. But based on the grisly details, it turns out there was a huge twist to the story.
KPRC2's Bill Barajas is at the scene of the shooting in Spring. So, Bill, what is the sheriff's office saying about that man tonight?
Well, the sheriff's office is saying that alleged suspect was identified as 24-year-old Jose Gallegos. He actually, according to the sheriff, called his office, specifically the homicide unit.
On the night of July 11th in Palm Bay, Florida, Julia Egler made a frantic call to the police, claiming that a burglar had broken into their home. According to Julia, she and her dog hid in her room while the intruder went on a rampage. She described hearing terrifying noises like objects being smashed and muffled voices, which made her too scared to come out until everything went silent. When she thought it was safe, she emerged to find the bodies of her mother, Helly McCollum, and her mother's boyfriend, Matthew Schrock. The scene was horrific, with blood everywhere and clear signs of a struggle, including overturned furniture and broken glass. Julia told the police that she discovered her mother in the kitchen and Matthew near the living room, both covered in blood. It's important to note that although Julia is a minor, her identity has been made public due to the serious nature of the crime, sparking widespread media attention. The revelation of the victims' identities also shocked the local community, as Helly was known to be a caring mother and Matthew was a popular local figure who often helped neighbors. The police began their investigation immediately, cordoning off the house and questioning neighbors who might have seen or heard anything unusual that night. Reports from neighbors indicated that there had been no sounds of forced entry or disturbance that they could recall, which was odd given the severity of the alleged home invasion. This detail added to the initial confusion and suspicion surrounding the case, as the narrative didn't align with typical burglary scenarios. Additionally, Julia's calm demeanor when the police arrived seemed inconsistent with someone who had just discovered such a gruesome scene.
Come on, she's a baby. She's a baby. God, I can never be the same again, never. My life is changed forever.
Raising further questions among the officers on the scene. The police were quick to arrive at the scene, but as they began their investigation, things just didn't add up. Julia's story of a home invasion started to fall apart under scrutiny. For one, there were bloody footprints matching her shoes all over the house. This was strange considering she claimed to have been hiding during the entire ordeal, suggesting she moved around more than she initially admitted. Broken glass from the supposed entry point was found on top of the victims, not below them, as one would expect if someone had broken in, indicating that the glass had been disturbed after the bodies fell. Furthermore, the positioning of the bodies and the blood spatter patterns didn't align with the burglary scenario, which typically involves less targeted violence and more ransacking. The police also noticed that some valuables were left untouched, which is unusual in a typical home invasion where valuable items are often the primary target. The scene looked more like a personal attack rather than a robbery gone wrong, with the focus seeming to be on the victims rather than theft. And the home security footage showed no signs of an intruder entering the house, contradicting Julia's accounts of the events. In fact, the footage revealed only Julia moving around the house during the time frame she claimed the burglary happened, with no evidence of an outsider. These inconsistencies led the police to question Julia further, and her responses began to raise more red flags. They also found the revolver used in the killings hidden in Julia's room, along with the bloody knife in the kitchen sink, both poorly concealed. Additionally, they discovered that Julia had wiped down the gun and knife, an attempt to remove fingerprints and other evidence suggesting a level of planning and awareness. There were also signs that Julia had tried to break a window from the inside, further complicating her story and making the supposed burglary even less plausible.
Moments before the shooting, Valenciano says Nitzy was returning from the gym with that family friend who happened to live next door to the ex-boyfriend.
And then, I don't know, I think just he's waiting for her.
Now Valenciano is anxiously waiting for justice.
Entrégate.
Deliver yourself. You are responsible for what you did, she says.
The level of violence in this case is hard to comprehend. Julia didn't just kill her mother and Matthew. She staged the scene to make it look like a burglary had gone wrong. The details are gruesome, from the multiple gunshots to the knife wounds and the attempts to cover up the crime. Julia admitted to shooting her mother several times in the chest and abdomen before turning the gun on Matthew, who was caught off guard by the sudden attack. He was shot multiple times as well, each shot fired as he tried to escape the house, indicating a prolonged and desperate attempt to survive. The gunshots were not immediately fatal, leaving Matthew to plead for his life, begging Julia to stop. In a chilling admission, Julia said that when she ran out of bullets, she resorted to stabbing him repeatedly with a kitchen knife, showing a shocking level of determination and lack of empathy. She even claimed that Matthew asked her to end his suffering, which she did by reloading the gun and shooting him in the head, a final brutal act of violence. After committing the murders, Julia spent some time trying to clean up and stage the scene, indicating a level of cold calculation. She moved objects around to make it look like a break-in and even attempted to wipe down surfaces to remove fingerprints, a clear attempt to mislead investigators. Julia also tried to break a window from the inside, hoping to make it look like an entry point for an intruder, but her efforts were inconsistent and poorly executed. The sheer brutality and cold planning of the crime shocked even the most seasoned investigators, who noted the unusual calmness and lack of remorse in Julia's demeanor during questioning.
Image of him when he was wanted, and then 3 years later, after his arrest, this is what he looks like today.
This arrest was significant because it closed an important chapter in the investigation. Dujon was taken to Orange County to face charges for the deaths of Masania.
Juvenile defense attorney Michael Gottel weighed in on the case, noting the extreme violence and the apparent premeditation involved. It's not often you see a crime of this nature involving someone so young, which adds a layer of complexity to the legal proceedings. Gottel discussed possible defenses, including the use of Julia's confession in court, which, while incriminating, might also provide insight into her state of mind. He pointed out that while the confession could be damaging, it could also be used to show remorse and possibly mitigate the charges if framed correctly. Gottel also mentioned that Julia's age could play a significant role in the defense strategy, as juveniles are often viewed differently by the legal system compared to adults. He highlighted that the defense might argue that her actions were driven by emotional and psychological turmoil, given her young age and the stressful situation she found herself in. Gottel speculated that the defense could explore aspects of Julia's mental health, her relationship with her mother, and the pressures she faced as potential mitigating factors, potentially including evidence of past trauma or ongoing mental health issues. The case raises questions about the influence of familiar relationships and mental health on juvenile behavior, particularly in high-stress family dynamics. Gottel also emphasized the importance of understanding Julia's state of mind at the time of the crime, suggesting that her mental health could be a crucial factor in determining her culpability and the appropriate legal response. He also noted that the portrayal of Julia's relationship with her mother on social media might have masked deeper issues, which could be relevant to her defense, as the public facade may not reflect the true nature of their interactions. Additionally, Gottel hinted at the possibility that the defense might argue for leniency based on Julia's potential lack of full cognitive maturity, as brain development continues into the mid-20s. The legal implications of this case are complex. Gottel explained that the defense might try to reduce the charges from first-degree murder to a lesser offense, such as second-degree murder or manslaughter, depending on the evidence presented in the defense strategy.
Is what a grieving mother's plea for answers sounds like.
I don't know why. I've done this thing.
Harris County Precinct 4 deputies were responding to a call for shots fired.
He also mentioned potential mental health defenses, giving Julia's age and the circumstances surrounding the case, which might include arguments of diminished capacity or temporary insanity. One key question is whether Julia will be tried as an adult or a juvenile, a decision that will significantly impact the potential sentencing and the type of facility she would be incarcerated in. The severity of the crime suggests she might face adult charges, which could lead to a harsher sentence, but her age and mental state could play a significant role in the court's decision, potentially leading to a more lenient sentence in a juvenile facility. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.